Okay, good morning, good morning, good morning, everyone. Okay, good morning. There we are. Okay, I hope that you all can hear me well on this morning and see me well on this morning. Good morning. It's Lady Victoria with Victoria School of Etiquette, where we offer a solution to your etiquette dilemmas. Thank you for joining us on this Monday morning. It is a little bit cloudy outside here in the Shy, but we appreciate good weather during this winter season anytime. So listen, this is going to be a short one this morning. You all come on in, tag a neighbor, tag a friend, and come on in. Thank you for joining us live on this morning. I appreciate your presence. And to all of you that will catch the replay, thank you so very much for joining us and taking time out of your day, because you could be doing anything else, but you decided to be a part of our platform, and I am appreciative of that. For my YouTube viewers and subscribers, you will be able to access this video later on today as I will upload it when the broadcast is done. Please don't feel shy about putting your comments and responses in the comments section, and I will reply to them probably after the broadcast is over. But anyway, thank you for being here for Mind Your Manners Monday on this segment, and I want to address some of the keys to having a polite conversation. Keys to having a polite conversation. One thing I'm noticing today, it seems to be even more of a decline when people are conversing with one another. And um, I wonder why that is. I wonder why that is. Is it a lack of manners, or is it a lack of respect? Is it a lack of manners, or is it a lack of respect? Either way, when you are conversing with a person, whether it is over the phone or whether it is in person. And I'm talking about those physical components of conversation. I will probably come back at another time and do one related to texting and emails and all of that. But when you are conversing with a person, especially face to face, it is important to always have a greeting. That is one of the key ingredients when you are conversing with a person, is to have a greeting when you are conversing with them. You don't just walk up and begin speaking, but you always want to either first introduce yourself or have a greeting, a salutation. Hello, good morning, good evening, how are you? Things like that. That's what you would say when you are first initiating a conversation. Of course, if you don't know the person, you are going to introduce yourself. Hello, my name is Victoria, and then you begin your conversation. Of course, if it's a person that you know, a person that's a friend, or perhaps a coworker, in the morning when you're entering the workplace, it's appropriate to say hello, and it's appropriate to say good morning or good evening. But you want to initiate a conversation with that key factor in place. You want to initiate a conversation with an opening, with a salutation. Okay. Another key to having a polite conversation is to do just that. Be polite. Um, if you're not versed in the subject matter that you are discussing, then you may not have as much to contribute to the conversation, but you can still be polite. You don't want to say things like, well, I don't know anything about that. So, and try to change the topic. I don't know what might be the parameters by which you're having this conversation, but if you've been included in it, then just let's be polite. You know, respond to the questions that are put forward to you. Do your best to answer them to the best of your capability. Or if you really don't know, then it is appropriate to say, you know what, I'm not as well versed in biology as you might be, but what I remember from high school, or what I remember from grade school, or enlighten me. You can ask the person to enlighten you a little bit, or to help you remember. But it's rude to just dismiss the topic of the conversation when you've been included. If you feel that you really aren't that well versed and that you can't contribute anything to the conversation, then while the conversation is ensuing, while the discussion is ensuing, then just be polite and answer the questions to the best of your ability, or respond, as much as you can with the knowledge that you do know, or ask questions about the things that you don't know that they may be discussing. But it is rude to just walk away. It is rude to just dismiss the conversation. And it could be considered rude to the other constituents that are a part of the conversation if you just sit there like a bump on a log and you have nothing whatsoever to contribute. We also have to remember that when you are having a conversation, it's not just the words that you say or don't say, but it is your body language. It is also your body language that tells you a lot, tells the other person a lot about what you're saying, what you're thinking, or what you are feeling. So, those two keys, having an introduction or a salutation, okay, then exercising inclusion, polite inclusion, okay, and asking questions if you are not well versed in the subject matter. Ask questions if you're not real versed in the subject matter. And your body language. Body language says a lot about what you say, what you're thinking. Body language tells a person really how you're feeling. If you're sitting there and your face is just flat pan, and you're offering nothing, you're sitting there, your arms are folded, you're slumped over, or you're completely laid back. That tells a person, that tells the other constituents a lot about what you may be thinking or what you may be feeling. And they can feel embarrassed. They can also feel that you just aren't there. You are physically there, but you are not a part of what is going on. And this is when you have been invited to the conversation. If you have been drawn into the conversation just because you're sitting with a group of people, let's say that you're out to dinner or you're at a business function and you're sitting at the table with a group of people, and that way you've gotten drawn into the conversation, then, like I said, there is a way to handle that. Just be polite. Just be polite. Nod your head. Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, I didn't realize that. I was unaware of that. Or, like I said, ask questions, ask questions, ask questions. I know I'm being repetitive, but I'm saying this over and over again because lately I have just been floored sometimes by the things that people say in general conversation, or even if it is a specific one. When you are in a group together with other people and you are chatting about whatever it is, I don't care if it's just the weather, there is a way to deport yourself. There is a way to exercise good manners and to have a polite conversation when you are speaking with others, right? So, introduction, polite inclusion, your body language, all of those things matter. The other thing is when you want to close the conversation, if you did not initiate the opening of the conversation, it is not up to you to close the conversation. It's not up to you to do that. That would be more the role of the host of the conversation or the person that initiated the conversation. This is not the same thing as having a business meeting. This is not what I am addressing this morning. I am addressing just a group of people together having a conversation about anything whatsoever, and how the other constituents in the conversation deport themselves while speaking is going on. And that is another thing. You do not take advantage or overrun the conversation by constantly interrupting. Please allow people to finish their sentences. Please allow them to finish their thought before you jump in. Do not override or overrun people by just jumping in and speaking over them, speaking loudly to make your point. If it's a general conversation, I think you can hold it for 30 seconds or so while the other person finishes their thought. Um, so you have to devise a system for yourself whereby you do that. If you have to keep repeating it in your head over and over again, what your point is that you wanted to make or the contribution that you wanted to add to the conversation, then do that silently. But please do not embarrass yourself and others by jumping in ahead of time while another person is speaking. And you say, oh, you know what? I know you're, but I wanted to add, what I wanted to say is, wait your turn. Wait until it's your turn. Wait until it's your turn. Do not be rude or overbearing by taking over the conversation. overrunning, speaking over other people, or speaking loudly over people just to make your point. You will have enough time and there will be enough room for you to do that, especially if you are amongst friends. Now, I understand that when you're amongst, your good friends and like that, that the whole tone of the conversation and the way it's carried out may be differently. I know when my sisters and I get together, I have three other sisters, and when we get together, the four of us, the four of those Jones girls getting together, having a conversation, it is something to behold. We might have three or four conversations going at one time amongst ourselves, but we don't miss a beat on any of it. That is a completely different setting, and that is a completely different tone to the conversation. You're amongst family, you are amongst friends, but I'm speaking of a mixed group where there might be familiar people that you know, friends, and then others that you've not yet met, and you are a part of the conversation. Um, I can't tell you how much more so I've been amongst people that I know and in mixed company, people that I know and people that I don't. And sometimes the way the conversation ensues is just, I'm wondering what in the world is going on here. Where are your manners? Where are your manners of politeness? Where are your manners of kindness during the conversation? So I thought I would come on and address that this morning. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I thought I turned my notifications off. Sometimes I don't. I forget. I apologize, and I'm doing it from my phone this morning because my computer is not cooperating with me. So, um, in conversation, be polite, be considerate of the person that is currently speaking. Do not override or overrun them. Allow them to finish their thought when you are in a conversation. And then you can add to the conversation by making your point when it is your turn. You can add to the conversation, good morning, thank you for joining. You can add to the conversation when it is your turn, but don't just jump in whenever you're having a thought and override other people. It is rude, it is not polite, and it gives a bad impression of you amongst other people in the group, especially when there might be groups of people that you don't know that are there. So just hold your point. Hold your point. You will have a chance to make it and you will have a chance to state it, but let's do it politely. The last point that I want to bring up again, I said when it's time to close the conversation, unless you initiated the conversation, it's not up to you to close the conversation. Sometimes in a conversation, just general conversation, one person will say, okay, well, that's all I have to add. Anybody else have anything? It may be that. Or if it's just an open conversation, it might not be, thank you, good morning, thank you for joining. If it's an open conversation, they might not exercise that privilege. And it could be considered, good morning, Lisa. It could be considered, um, what am I trying to say? Not so formal. It's oftentimes considered a formality to close the conversation, and the person will say, does anyone else have anything else to add? This is just general conversations amongst friends or amongst coworkers, but still you don't want to be so common with other people that you forget your manners. That you forget your manners. And don't try to be overly impressive in a conversation by using words that nobody else knows what they mean. Just speak plainly. Just speak plainly and make your point. There is another time and another setting, perhaps, where you can exercise that ability. But in general conversation, it's really not necessary. It's really not necessary. You don't have to try to be overly impressive because remember, first impressions make lasting impressions. And people will remember, when I was in that conversation with my friend, so and so, and she brought her girlfriend, Victoria, I cannot believe how she took over the conversation. Girl, did you even understand what she was saying? She was using all of these words and all of this technical language and all of that. It's not necessary, people. In a regular conversation, just be your regular self. And again, when it's time to close, let the person that started the conversation exercise the privilege of closing the conversation. If they give room for someone else to add a final comment, and then we're going to move on to the next thing, then maybe you can make your final comment, but they will still close the conversation. Allow them that privilege and don't overdo it. So this is Lady Victoria with Victoria School of Etiquette. So happy to have you be a part of our platform on Monday. This is our Monday segment of Mind Your Manners Monday. And just remember, like I always say, the manners that you practice in private are the ones that show up in public. Don't forget your manners. We need you to visit the show. Please check your April calendar. I sure will, Lisa. I will do that. I will do that. Thank you so very much for the invitation. So remember, the manners that you practice in public are the ones that show up. The manners you practice in private are the ones that show up in public. So not just on today, but mind your manners every day. Lady Victoria, I'll chat with you again soon. Bye for now.